Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh and a very good morning to all of you. Welcome again to our program Research Fast Talk with the team Expert in Actions, series number 2, organized by Darul Hikmah Library IIUM. Alhamdulillah, first and foremost, praise be to Allah, the most gracious and the most merciful. Praise be to Allah, the cherisher and sustainer of the worlds. And blessings be on our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family and companions. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Latifah Ramli, Senior Librarian, Darul Hikmah Library IIUM, your host and moderator for this session. Together with me today, our special guest, Professor Dr. Nur Hazila Abdul Manaf from the Kuliah of Economics and Management Sciences, and also Associate Professor Dr. Ramzi bin Rosman from IIUM Institute of Islamic Banking and Finance. Inshallah, we will be on air with you for about 2 hours. To gain barakah for our event, I would like to invite Brother Ahmad Zaki bin Rashid for the recitation of dua. فليتفضل مشكورا.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Allahumma la sahla illa ma ja'altahu sahla wa anta taj'alul hazna idza syi'ta sahla. Ya Allah, kami mohon akan Engkau permudahkanlah perjalanan majlis kami pada hari ini. Jadikanlah ia sebagai amalan soleh yang diterima, serta tanda kesyukuran terhadap nikmat-Mu yang tidak terhingga, serta rahmat-Mu yang tiada sempadan. O Allah, bring all humans closer to You and each other. Please do not make us Muslim a test for them with our misrepresentation of Islam because of our bad behavior. O Allah, open our hearts to feel perfection in our shortcomings, Your mercy in our weaknesses, Your forgiveness in our wrongdoings, Your knowledge in our ignorance, Your blessings in our sorrows. O Allah, lead us towards the unity of the entire Ummah and give us leaders who lead this nation to virtue. Rabbi yassir wa la tu'assir, Rabbi tammim bil khair. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzaban nar. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Jazakallahu khair, Brother Ahmad Zaki. Respected Chief Librarian of Darul Hikmah Library, Madam Noraini Mukhtar, Top Management of Library Officials, respected panelists, Professor Dr. Nur Hazila Abdul Manaf and Associate Professor Dr. Ramzi bin Rosman, academics and researchers, senior officials of IIUM and the rest, ladies and gentlemen. As IIUM is heading towards responsible research and innovation and humanizing education, researchers started to perform more impactful research which are beyond academia. Thus, the main objective of these sessions is to provide a platform for researchers to share their research to the public. We hope with this effort, we could assist in increasing and leveraging the visibility of IIUM research to the world. And for all of us, ladies and gentlemen, will be able to reap as many fruitful inputs and tips as possible from this session and more session to come, inshallah. As usual, ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed with the presentation of our guest, it is incomplete without briefly knowing our guest biodata. And our first panelist today is Professor Dr. Nur Hazila Abdul Manaf. Professor Doctor, for your information, writes on issues in healthcare covering diverse topics in the disciplines from patient satisfaction to service quality, and from medical education to medical specialty training. Her writing also addresses policy issues such as medical tourism and its impact on the country's healthcare system. Her work has been published in various index journals such as International Journal of Healthcare Quality Assurance, Leadership in Health Services, and International Journal of Public Sector Management. She is currently guest editor for WOS Open Access Journal Frontiers in Public Health with the topic Public Health Matters, Pandemic Policy Processes. Apart from healthcare, Professor Dr. Nohazila's research interests include quality management, particularly on lean management and public sector management. Without further ado, I would like to call upon Professor Dr. Nur Hazila Abdul Manaf, and she will give us her her expert opinion on public-private dichotomy in Malaysian healthcare issues and way forward. Please welcome, Prof.
Okay. Assalamualaikum Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Puan Latifah, moderator. And thank you also Puan Nuraini Mukhtar, Chief Librarian, for inviting me to give the talk today. And also to Sister Norzi, who is very good in organizing the event. She has been consistently in touch with me to make sure that the event goes smoothly. And inshallah, we hope that we get the blessings of from this event. The topic we will discuss today is the structure of healthcare in Malaysian health delivery system, which I call the public-private dichotomy, because in Malaysian healthcare, the public hospitals exist side by side with private hospitals. So, and some of the issues that arise from this structural divide between the public and private healthcare services. All right, next please. Next. Try to make this bigger. Okay. So Malaysian healthcare is often regarded as a model for other developing countries. In terms of total expenditure, our spending is about 4.3% of the GDP. Life expectancy in Malaysia is good at about 75 years. And we have come a long way since independence, when when our infant mortality rate was 75.5. Now it is at 6 per thousand live birth. And healthcare in Malaysia is also equitable, because two things that really matters in healthcare, in the delivery of healthcare, is accessibility and equitable. So healthcare must be accessible and it must also be equitable. So in the case of Malaysia, with the nominal fee of RM1 for outpatient treatment and RM5 for specialist services, so we can say that our healthcare is equitable. So that means regardless whether you're rich or poor, you can still access healthcare services. And no person in Malaysia can be denied treatment in the public hospital. So regardless, whoever you are, you can seek. We can seek treatment in our public hospital. So that is Malaysia healthcare at a glance. We'll cover a few slides on how we need to shout a bit about our Malaysian healthcare. I think this is something that the country has developed well. So it's good that we run through a few slides on our healthcare. So next, please. So Malaysia, our country also, we have an extensive network of healthcare facilities throughout the length and breadth of the country, all the states. This is through government clinics, and we have many private medical clinics, the community clinics or the clinic desa, and then we have the mobile health teams, and also the flying doctor services in Sabah, in the remote places in Sabah and Sarawak. We have the flying doctors. So so the country's in terms of accessibility, it is very accessible. So, and we like to boast. Actually, we boast about this in many publications. You can see this. That for a radius of 5 kilometers, you can there is a healthcare facility in Malaysia. For every 5 kilometer radius, there is a static healthcare facility. So this makes the population at large, healthcare is very accessible to the population at large, and it's acknowledged that Malaysia's healthcare delivery system is one of the best in the Asia Pacific region. And also, if you look at how we have served well in terms of medical tourism, we can say that it is also about the best in the world. Yeah. So next, please. So if you look at some next slide, please. So if you look at some of the health indicators, when you compare with other countries in the Southeast Asian region, Malaysia fares well. Yeah, we are next only to Singapore. Okay, if you look at in terms of life expectancy, in terms of infant mortality, in terms of healthcare spending, so we have relatively good healthcare infrastructure in place, in comparison to other ASEAN countries. So if we next, please. Next slide, please. Yes. So if you look at if you compare with other developed countries, you can see that we are also almost comparable to developed countries. It is interesting to note that the infant mortality rate for Malaysia is 6, which is in 2015 it was the same as US, and our spending in terms of GDP is 4.17% in 2014, as opposed to 17% in the US. So in terms of outcome, the results of our spending on healthcare, you can say that it is very good for a country like Malaysia. Next, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so a feature of our healthcare delivery service is the distinct dichotomy between public and private healthcare services. So private hospitals are mainly based in the urban areas in Kuala Lumpur, Penang, Johor Bahru, and Melaka, and it caters more for the affluent middle class, or those who are covered either by insurance or by their employers. At the moment, it stands we have 144 public hospitals and 187 private hospitals, serving a population of 32 million. And Ministry of Health is the main healthcare provider with more than 40,000 beds, while the private sector has almost 16,000 beds. Next slide, please. So privatization of healthcare services in the country started about in the 80s, when the country went through a massive privatization program of all services in the country, not just healthcare. But by then it was thought that because the 50s, 60s, 70s we consolidated the public delivery services. By the 80s, the country was more prepared to open up, and by the 90s, it was gaining momentum in terms of private healthcare services. And there were many hospitals built throughout many private hospitals built in the 1990s. So much so to the extent that there was a need to regulate private healthcare services. So in 1998, the Private Healthcare Facilities and Services Act was introduced. Okay, next slide, please. But the rapid expansion of private hospitals, it was somehow stopped because of the 1997 Asian financial crisis. There was a bad time, and as a result of that, because the private hospitals, because of the shrinking middle class, as a result of the financial crisis, the private hospitals were not getting patients. So one of the proposal of the National Economic Action Council, which was set up to address the 1997 financial crisis, was to propose for private hospitals to take in foreign patients. So you open up private hospitals to foreign patients. So that set the impetus for the country to become to go into medical tourism. And in later years, we see that as we approach, I think that the last few years we had very good numbers in terms of medical tourism. It's so much so that in 2019, the numbers, the figure that was released by the Malaysia Air Travel Council was 1.2 million, and with a revenue of 1.7 billion. That was before the crisis, the pandemic that we are in now. So next slide, please. So if we look at the structure between public and private hospitals, as we know, in terms of public hospitals, we have the district hospitals, the small 50 to 150 bed hospitals, and then we have the national level hospital. Okay, so and in Kuantan, in Alostar, you have the national hospitals there. The state hospitals, and we also have the National Referral Centre. Hospital Kuala Lumpur with about 2,000 beds is a national referral centre where you have all the specialties, all the medical specialties in Hospital Kuala Lumpur. And we also have specialist hospitals like the National Cancer Institute, Institute Jantung Negara, and then we have Ceras Rehabilitation Hospital. So those are specialist hospitals. And public hospitals, you have a director who is a medical officer. So a doctor is trained in either public health or healthcare management. So they would normally head. And the clinical departments are managed by specialist consultants. And also for senior officers for the other allied health services, because hospitals are complex organizations. It's not just about the doctors and the patients, but there are also many other services. You have the pharmacists, you have the physiotherapists, you have the lab. So it's quite a complex system in itself. So public hospitals work on the referral system. You don't get to see a specialist immediately. So someone will refer you to the specialist. Another doctor will refer you, a medical officer will refer you to a specialist. Okay. So private hospitals, on the other hand, are specialist hospitals by themselves. So you go when you get an appointment to seek a medical doctor, to see a doctor in a private hospital. Chances are it would be someone who is already a specialist in his or her area. And private hospitals are run as a business entity. So you have a professional CEO running, whom usually not from the medical fraternity. So he or she can be an accountant or someone with a business background running the hospitals. And physicians, interestingly, physicians in private hospitals, they are not employed. They are not employed as an employee of the hospital, but they are independent contractors to the hospital. Okay, so and you can see sometimes they also practice in other hospitals. So you have a consultant having a clinic in Tawakal, can also have a clinic in Ampang Puteri, for example. Things like that. But the nursing staff, and other allied health professionals are employed, gainfully employed in private hospitals. Okay. Next slide, please. So you have a situation in terms of the public and private dichotomy. We have a situation where the public sector, with 70% of the beds, they have about 30% of the medical specialists. So these are some of the issues. I have two issues that I will bring up today. So this is one of it, which is issues in human resource in terms of the public private divide that we have. Okay, so what we have experienced in the country thus far is an outflow of health professionals from the public to private hospitals. Because of the nature of private hospitals, they do not train. I recall just now I said that in private hospitals, the medical specialists are not hired. They are contract suppliers of their services to the hospitals. Okay, so in a study which we conducted sometime, study on turnover intention, when we asked the health professionals, why have you got a job offer from the private sector, for the medical specialists, 70% said they have received job offers. From the private sector. Pharmacists 50.8% and dentists 44.8%. Yeah. So our study showed that job satisfaction was not really the issue. It's not that our medical specialists, I'm talking about the consultants, the higher level, not that they are not satisfied. They are found to be satisfied in their position in public hospitals, but the offer from the private hospital is is quite good in terms of better pay, better working condition and lesser workload. The government tried to offset the loss to the private sector, but that has it has not been. It has a stem. There's the flow of time, but still it was quite an issue. So we have in the small table there, the attrition rate is about 400 a year. In terms of the loss of medical specialists to private hospitals. So those are issues in human resource that we face in terms of this public-private dichotomy in Malaysian healthcare delivery service. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, human resource in healthcare financing is usually financed because of the high cost of medical education and training. So it's normally taken up by the government. And public universities are the main provider for medical education, and also and medical specialty training is funded by government scholarship. Okay, so and also doctors in public hospitals continuously upgrade their knowledge and skills through all this training that is supported by the government. Okay, private hospitals on the other hand, because the doctors are not their employers, so they do not invest. They do not invest in the training of the medical specialists. So the medical specialists, once they go into the private hospitals, they are on their own. Okay, so private hospitals, as I mentioned just now, they get their supply from the public hospitals. So they do not groom. They do not. There is. We are not saying that there is capacity building in that sense. Okay, so doctors in private hospitals, they provide curative treatment. So it is to cure a person, to cure a sick person in the public hospital, rather than because of their position, so they're not expected to engage in research. Okay, next slide, please. This has been a concern because the talent that goes to the private hospitals. They have vast experience, because in the government hospitals they see so many cases. So that's how you develop your skills, your expertise, and then the training that you get. Okay, so once in the private hospitals, however, the medical specialists do not have to engage in research activities. Okay, so only patient care. So this is actually in terms of talent. In terms of talent, is quite a loss. Okay, because if one does research continuously, you advance the frontiers of medicine, as opposed to just doing curative services and just patient care alone. So the way forward that has been proposed in my discussion with colleagues such as Professor Lokman Saim from KPJ University is to go for the academic health center. If in an academic health center, okay, regardless whether you're public or private hospital, the center is geared towards training, especially new physicians, and also research and patient care. So if private hospitals are to function as an academic health center as well, the skills and expertise of the medical consultants are also directed towards leading and directing medical research as well, as well as education and training. So there is that continuity in terms of the knowledge, and in terms of advancing the frontiers of medicine. Yeah, so there is no, it's not a loss, not a loss to the society at large. So next slide, please. Yeah. So apart from human resource, another issues that came out, is medical education and training. This is also related to human resource, but it has its own bearing. It has its own bearing because of the unique situation that we are in the country. Yeah, because the what we saw in the past decade was a rapid increase in the number of medical schools. Yeah, so in the year 2000, we see that we had 11 medical schools. Yeah, but today there are 32. Yeah, 32 medical schools, 11 public and 21 private. So the private medical schools more. We have more than the public medical schools, and we have far too many actually medical schools. If we look at countries with comparable population, Canada and Australia has less medical schools. And also, if you look at countries with the same amount of medical schools, UK, for example, has about, I think they have 33 medical schools, but their population is almost double our population. Yeah. So in terms of per capita, we have many medical schools in the country. Okay. So next slide, please. So it's not just next slide, please. Can you go back to the slide before, please? Okay, now next slide, please. I lost that. Okay, so apart from the medical schools that we have, we also recognize about 370 universities from abroad. Yeah, so that's right. Yeah, you have doctors from Egypt, from India, from China, from Russia, all these countries. So we have another more than 300. Yeah, so you can imagine the number of doctors that we produce every year. So it's about 5,000. Yeah, so medical graduates in a year. So much so that a moratorium, that means you stop for a while. So a moratorium was introduced in 2011, the first one, 5 years, and then we are now into our second moratorium from 2016 to 2021. So no more medical schools for that period of time. Yeah, so until 2021. So that is going to expire by this year. Okay, so that is the implication of because of the number of medical graduates that we have. I think the next slide will show you the number of doctors. Please move on to the next slide. Yeah, so the number of medical doctors that we have, you can see that the increase, year on year. Yeah? So this has got implications on on how medical education and training takes place in the country. So next slide, please. The rapid increase in medical schools and the policymakers at the point where medical schools were allowed to open, because the thinking then was for Malaysia to be the education hub. Okay, and it was supposed to internationalize. Yeah, but what happened was that the international students, not too many, I think there are a few, but not too many would go for medical education in the country. So most of the places are taken up by local students. Yeah, so you have both the local universities and also the foreign universities. Yeah? Okay, so in 2008, the housemanship period was also extended from 1 year to 2 years. Yeah? So there was the thinking that the training should be more comprehensive, covering 6 department rotation. Yeah. So that, because from 1 year it was extended to 2 years, and then you have the number of graduates coming in. So that created an influx into the houseman system. Yeah, and so you still have some of those who could not complete within the 2 years. So that adds up to the houseman system. Okay, next slide, please. And at the same time, the number of hospitals that was designated for housemanship training was it was increased, but not it was not parallel to the increase of the doctors. Yeah, so in 2009 we had 38 hospitals designated for housemanship. Yeah, but in 2015, the rise, we only had the increase was only up to 44. Yeah, so we could not catch up. Okay, so this affect the waiting time of medical graduates wanting to do their housemanship training. So that creates, you can see, some had to wait for six months, 8 months, sometimes close to a year. Okay, so and also the quality of the training also that has been an issue among the medical fraternity, because when you have too many housemen in one hospital, the number of cases, the junior doctors were seeing less medical cases also. Okay, so this has been stressed because the husbandship period is a very important period. So this is the time when medical doctors, they build the foundation. They build the foundation to become competent, skilled and competent doctors, because they are supervised at that time. Yeah, so that's how that sets the foundation for them to become a skilled and competent doctors. Next slide, please. Okay, so if you have too many housemen, and being supervised by a medical specialist, that will affect supervision. And our research showed that inadequate supervision is one of the predictors of medical errors among the housemen. So we say that what is possibly the reason that you make a manifestation of medical error. So one of the strong predictor is inadequate supervision. So we have too many graduates, not enough medical specialists in public training hospitals supervised, and we also have not too many public hospitals where they can go for the husbandship training. So that is an issue with regard to medical education and training in the country. Okay, our problem is not having medical doctors, but trying to produce medical specialists from the medical graduates, because it takes a long time to produce a medical specialist. If you look at the flow, so one has to go through 5 years of medical bachelor degree medical education, 2 years houseman, and after that a medical doctor has to serve 2 years of compulsory service, and then if he or she wishes to go on for specialist training, that will be another 4 years. Okay, and a gazettement period of between 12 to 18 months, and then another 3 years for subspecialty training. So that takes a long time to produce a medical specialist. So whether how fast we can produce a medical specialist to counter our production of medical graduates, that's also an issue. So all these are complex issues that comes out from, I would say, policies that was made years ago. Okay, so next slide, please. So the way forward, stopgap measure to address the congestion. We need to perhaps reach out. This is where the public-private dichotomy has, at some point, it has to converge. Okay, so perhaps the private hospitals can be sourced as a for housemanship training. So other countries have done this on Australia under the Australia Commonwealth Medical Internship Initiative. So they reach out to their public hospitals for their medical graduates to do housemanship training. Okay, so not for Australia, for foreign. In the case of Australia, is the foreign graduates who do medical education in Australia. Okay, so they are allowed to do their housemanship training in private hospitals. I'm getting confused, public, private. Okay, all right. And also in the field of pharmacy, the pharmacists, they have this 1 year provisionally registered pharmacist training. Okay, the pharmacy board has allowed for this training to be conducted in private facilities which are recognized by the Pharmacy Board of Malaysia. So the way forward, perhaps there is that reaching out to the private hospitals to address the current situation that we are in. Okay, right, next slide, please. Okay, and also the private hospitals may consider recruiting housemen, the medical doctors who completed their housemanship training upon completion. So this can be part of capacity building for the private hospitals rather than just sourcing, getting specialists from public hospitals. Pinching we call it. So this enable private hospitals to pave the way also towards becoming an academic health center. So that means you're also engaged in medical education and training. So that gives a more comprehensive role of private hospital, because medicine is a field that one, it requires skills, the other, the knowledge moves very fast. Advances in medicine it's very fast. So that's why we see medical journals are mostly open access, because the discipline evolve very fast. So if you are not engaged in research, you're not into education, you can be still holding on to old knowledge and things like that. All right, so next slide please. So in conclusion, Malaysian healthcare, as I said, the public, so the healthcare delivery services, much, the country has done well, much for in terms of delivery services, but there is also that distinct public private dichotomy. And also a shifting of from public sector dominance to increasing significance of the private sector. We saw that now we have more private medical schools are coming in strong, and also private hospitals are also, especially with the success, with the country's success in medical tourism, we can see that more. This is prior to the pandemic that we are in, so we see more private hospitals coming up to cater for tourists, for medical. For patients from abroad. Okay, issues internal brain drain. Where medical specialists and other health professionals leave the public sector for the private sector. Okay, and the curative nature of service in the private hospitals does not require the physicians to engage in research and development. So this can be seen also as a waste of resources, and because of the skills that and the knowledge and the competency that they have acquired over a long period of time. So public-private collaboration in research, education and medical care is proposed through the Academic Health Center. Okay, so I think that's about it. And it's next slide, please. Any more slides? Oh, okay. Engagement of private hospitals in education can be achieved by providing housemanship training for medical graduates. So this will ease the congestion houseman system, and contributes towards assuring quality in our healthcare system. This may not be limited to housemanship training alone. So other medical specialty training can be considered to allow private facilities to conduct specialist training, as we can see in terms of KPJ University College. They are now conducting specialist training in ENT, otorino in ENT specialty. Okay, so the public-private dichotomy presents issues arising from this structural divide. It presents issues in Malaysian healthcare, but we have to move. We have to look what can we do to address it. We cannot go and dwell on the past, but how can we address the issue moving forward? So I have suggested the above, so that hopefully that we maintain our position in terms of the excellent delivery of healthcare services. All right, so with that, I end my talk. Thank you very much. I hand over to Puan Latifah. Right.
Thank you so much, Prof, for your presentation. It is indeed a very informative and interesting sharing. I believe that this is an eye-opener for myself as well as for those who are not from this field. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any question, or suggestion or comments, you may keep writing your email. I can see we have some question coming in the chat box in our YouTube channels. Inshallah, we'll respond to you later in the Q&A session. All right. Okay, coming up next, ladies and gentlemen, is our second panelist for today. Now, let me read through our second panelist brief biodata. He is Dr. Ramzi Rosman. He's an associate professor at IUM Institute of Islamic Banking and Finance. He is a member of International Council of Islamic Finance Educators, associate members of Association of Sharia Advisors in Islamic Finance, associate member of Malaysian Institute of Accountant, and senior associate fellow of the Institute of Sharia Governance and Islamic Finance. He graduated with BA Honours in Accounting and Finance from Lancaster University, United Kingdom in 2000. He was awarded a Master of Business Administration, Islamic Banking and Finance in 2005 and a PhD Islamic Banking and Finance in 2012 from the IIUM. He has published his research in several journals such as the Journal of Economic Cooperation and Development, Pacific Basin Finance Journal, and the Journal of Islamic Accounting and Business Research. He is also the editorial board member of the International Journal of Islamic Business and associate editor for the Journal of Islamic Accounting and Business Research. His research interests include accounting, Islamic finance, and Islamic social finance. Thus, with all these experiences, Dr. Ramzi will be sharing his expert opinion with us on policy contribution in Islamic finance research, issues and challenges. Dr. Ramzi, please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Madam Moderator, Madam Latifah. Respected Chief Librarian, Madam Nuraini Mukhtar, the organizer Dar Al-Himah Library. Respected Professor, scholars, lecturers, staff, students, audience and participants. First of all, thank you for giving me this opportunity in this knowledge sharing session as the second panelist. Alhamdulillah, we just listened to very informative and interesting talk by the first panelist, Prof. Dr. Nur Hazila, on healthcare, which is definitely provide contributions to the policy, inshallah. I will continue with the sharing session and the title of my talk is Policy Contribution in Islamic Finance Research, Issues and Challenges. I will start with the introductions, then to discuss the roles of academicians and expectation from industry players in addition to our research initiatives. After that, I will share some experience conducting research with some engagement from both industry players and policymakers. Then we will discuss on some challenges and limitations, and finally, the conclusion of the presentations. Let's start with introduction. In general, we expect our academic paper will provide significant contributions, including theoretical, methodological, practical, and policy contributions. Here we can see many theses, dissertation, academic papers, even our project papers that can provide significant contribution to the industry players and also to the policymakers or regulators. Hence, Today, we are going to initiate the discussions on how to ensure that the research is actually able to provide contributions to the policies that will ultimately benefit the community as a whole. Let's just think for a while. How can we help or contribute? How can we as a researcher help? We know that the policy making today is unavoidably complex. The current environment is very challenging, especially now during the COVID-19 pandemics. It is important for us to realize that we need to recognize that research is unlikely to provide a silver bullet solutions, which is the perfect solutions, but complementary relationships between researcher in research community, industry players, and policymakers need to be developed to provide effective solutions. In general, these are our roles as a researcher. First, to provide theoretical or conceptual insight. Mainly, this is one of our strengths as an academician. We expose to many theories and concepts. Then, we also have been trained in finding issues and research gaps by conducting critical reviews, either through critical literature reviews or the reviews of existing empirical evidence. Our academic research also always provides new evidence or new models from our empirical analysis and findings, or from our or based even from our conceptual studies. However, a point that needs to be noted that our research contribution may either simplify or complicate the policymaker decisions. This is where we need to bridge the gap between theory and practices. Next, let's see what do we have currently. Among the general output of our research, journal article publication, books, thesis, dissertation, project papers, all these are treasures of knowledge in the university especially. This can be used not only for teaching and learning, but to contribute to the community. And one of the ways is to support the policymakers and industry players. This is important, especially if you know your research much more related to the industry, such as Islamic finance that can impact the financial system of the countries. If you see here, okay, very fast, I just look at the IIM Library Research Gateway. I just search for Islamic finance. You can find 495 documents, this including thesis. And we can see we have many journals, books. Just go to the library. There's so many treasures of knowledge. In relation to these topics, I managed to conduct interviews with the industry players and share some of their opinions related to these topics. The first question, just to seek their opinion on what can research offer to the policy making process. Among their answers are shared in the slides. First, research plays a major role in policy making because we establish or develop a certain policy. We have to do so. We have to do some background checks and research in that area, specifically in my area, which is Sharia. We have all Sharia standard and Sharia policy documents. And this is one of the respondents. Second, for sure, before the policy makers can issue the policies, they need to do certain research. But I'm not sure the policymaker invites the academia, but the policymaker did invite the industry players in the policy making process. Third, as an industry player, we are also doing policy making internally. So from here, when I have this conversation, it switched my mind. The contribution of policy not only for central bank, not only for regulators, but it's actually for the industry themselves, for their policy making internally. Okay. So as mentioned here, because we have our own policy, guideline, and standard that we adopt, at the end of the day, the industry players are subjected to regulated by Bank Negara. We also need to have good internal governance, especially on policy makings. Fourth, based on my experience, internally we do the policy. We need to understand the whole ecosystem of the subject matters. For instance, to develop a new internal framework, we need to do our own industrial research or observation to study for us to draft the new internal policy. For example, we need to look at research from other countries and so on. From their response, it is clear they need to conduct research, or research will provide major and important role in policy making process, either from the regulator perspective or internal policy making perspective. Another question to them. To what extent do you, as an industry player, make references to the journal article for your work activities? The answer include, first, leading the Sharia department, most of our tasks are to advise on Sharia matters. Yes, we have daily work related to Sharia matters. This is part of the requirement to advise on the operation of the Islamic banks. I think not exactly the daily basis that we refer to the articles, but in some situation, yes, we need to make references to journals and articles. Second, for example, if you want to explore new things, because not all policies issued by Bank Negara, for instance, the Sharia standard cover all Islamic banking activities, but not on zakat, wakaf, Islamic wasi'ah, and so on. But before we offer the products, we need to conduct research. In our case, we have our research team. Every year, we have planned research. Hence, yes, we make references, especially when we want to explore new products and services. Third, I can share my experience when I was in the Sharia department, and now I have to focus on Islamic social finance. In this case, the industry players needs from Sharia department, now he need to focus on Islamic social finance. So previously, when I was in the Sharia department, many research articles are well circulated on these Sharia subjects. It was much easier to find the research concerning Sharia. The industry players have written quite many of this kind of research articles, and they also have presented this kind of research in seminars or conferences. Also, we can easily refer to the available Sharia standards. Fourth, however, when it comes to social finance, it's quite challenging. So this is when you venture into new area. Okay? It's quite challenging because there are few more type of stakeholders in social finance. For example, if you are talking about zakat, there are other specific stakeholders. Zakat payers, Islamic Religious Council, where different states have different practices. Hence, it's quite challenging to find the research. And for us, we need to learn the skill to do research. They need to learn. For instance, to find the right articles, even to find the right articles. Hence, we can generally conclude that yes, they need to do some kind of research, the industry player need to do some kind of research where it needs especially for them to explore new ideas. However, they may have some difficulties in conducting the research. Next, I would like to share some experience when conducting a research either directly as the author or indirectly as observer or participants that involve both industry players and policymakers. However, the example is quite specific to reporting of accounting of Islamic financial transactions and Islamic finance. But inshallah, we can look at the lesson learned from that. On the left, it is a research paper published by ISRA. This basically one of a project when there is an issue on the reporting of one of the Islamic financial transactions, which are investment account based on mudarabah or profit sharing investment accounts. The issue become more peculiar after IFSA, Islamic Financial Service Act, has distinguished the definition between Islamic deposit and investment accounts. The middle one is book published by Malaysian Institute Accountant, where the contributors came from both academician and industry player. And the one on the right is a publication by Malaysia Accounting Standard Boards on a review of Bank Negara Malaysia Syariah Policy document from a financial reporting perspective. Okay, this document is important, especially if you are interested to look at the issues, the current issues in accounting or reporting for Islamic financial transactions. Okay, since our participants are from various backgrounds and due to times, I try to share one research paper and later brief overview of one working paper published by Islamic Financial Services Board. Let's start with the first example. The research paper entitled Profit Sharing Investment Account in Islamic Banks, Classification and Accounting Treatment in the Financial Statement. The objectives of the research are, first, to examine issues in the financial reporting of investment accounts that adopt mudarabah contracts. Second, to discuss possible accounting treatments. The third, to explain any Sharia implication on the accounting treatments. As I mentioned before, okay, we try to find a solutions, but okay, the solution is more on possible suggestions. Okay? The issues are the accounting treatment for investment account based on Malaysia Financial Reporting Standard are different from AUFI Financial Accounting Standard. Hence, is there any Sharia concern on the accounting treatment? In this research, we conduct focus group discussion and interviews involving both industry players and academicians. In this research, we provide some possible accounting treatment. Number one, the investment account will be treated as on balance sheet or off balance sheet depending on the control and risk. Number two, if investment accounts are recognized in the financial statement, the classification will be on the liability side and additional disclosure would be needed. We also show that some illustration that I will share later on the slide. Finally, we conclude that understanding the accounting treatment and the related Sharia implications on the investment account will assist policymakers and regulators in deciding the appropriate accounting treatment. Allow me to go briefly some of important points pertaining the research. These are the general, this here IFSA distinguish between two major sources of funding. So the Act provides the following interpretation on the investment accounts. So this is where the problem statement, this is where the issues comes in from the policy maker points of view. Here, investment account means an account under which money is paid and accepted for the purpose of investment, including for the provision of finance in accordance with Sharia on terms that there is no express or implied obligations. This is the keyword, obligations, to pay the money in full and either only the profits or both the profit and losses thereon shall be shared between the person paying the money and the person accepting the money, or with or without any returns. In line with the Malaysian Accounting Standard Board consultative approach, an Islamic financial institution is to refer to MASP where there is divergence in practices regarding the accounting for a particular Sharia compliance transactions or events, or when there is a doubt about the appropriate accounting treatment and the Islamic financial institution believe it is important that a standard treatment be established. So this is the opportunity for us, the researcher. Okay? If we find there's an issues, we can discuss with the regulators. Okay? Okay, in this slide, I just, because we, all of us, different background, this is a general differences in financial statement, in the balance sheet, based on Malaysia Financial Reporting Standard and AUFI. In particular, we can clearly see where the investment account being classified. Under MFRS, it is classified under liabilities, even though it is no longer under deposits, as being reported prior to IFSA. Meanwhile, under AUFI, the investment accounts are classified on its own separate category, which is equity of investment account holders, in between liability and owner's equity. Next slide will further explain on this. So basically, this is the different two presentation. Okay, so this is the issues. Malaysia, we are following Malaysia Financial Reporting Standard. Okay, and AUFI, as we understand, is accounting and Sharia standards, okay, that focus on Islamic financial transaction based on each contracts. Okay. Okay, in these slides, rather than the figures, which is quite technical, in general, this is the issues, this is the problems. Under AUFI, the unrestricted investment accounts or URIA is not a liability because the Islamic bank is not obligated in case of loss to return the original amount of fund received unless the loss is due to negligence or breach of contracts. Moreover, AUFI does not classify URIA as owner equity either. This is because URIA holders do not enjoy the same ownership rights, for example, voting rights, as the owner of the Islamic banks. Therefore, AUFI requires URIA to be recognized as a separate line item between liabilities and owner equity in the statement of financial positions. So this is how we want to say which one is right. Maybe both are right, okay? Or one is not that right. One not show a true and fair. One is not faithful representation. more importantly, whether it give any impacts of Sharia implication. That is the main points, the main issues in this research. Okay, these slides show you in conclusion, okay, the investment account is classified as liability. Okay, we can see the figure 6 illustration of Sharia viewpoints on liability. Okay, to further look this in depth, okay, you can look at the research paper. Okay, however, in conclusion, the investment account, according to this research, is classified as liability because the Sharia prescribed that the bank as Mudarib assumes the obligation to do its level best in investing the capital to meet the objective of the Mudarabah contracts, despite the possibility of capital loss. The element of non-capital guarantee in a Mudarabah contract does not mean the bank is free from the obligation of avoiding capital loss. In fact, the bank is responsible to ensure the proper management of the Mudarabah venture and to act in the interest of the investment account holder. Hence, classifying the investment account as financial liabilities is more conformable to the Maqasid al-Sharia, which emphasize the realization of profit in a Mudarabah contract which can be achieved if the bank fulfill its obligation as Mudarib. Okay, next. This is another. This we also provide illustrations. We provide illustrations as a potential solutions to the reporting of profit sharing investment accounts. Of course, the issues keep on going. Okay, the researchers keep on thinking about it. Okay, the PhD candidates can again revisit these issues and argue differently. Basically, this is the illustrations. So basically, in the research paper, we provide this illustration, and we hope that the regulators, especially the policymakers, the standard setters in relation to accountings, will look at these illustrations. Okay, this is another research in FSB working paper series. Okay, this I will go very brief. Okay, this is another. This paper aim to study the nature of Sharia non-compliant risk and explore the implication on the capital adequacy of Islamic banks. Utilizing the data of 51 Islamic banks from 11 countries for a 5-year period, the finding leads to the conclusion that instead of applying an additional capital charge to cover Sharia non-compliant risk in Islamic banks, tools available under supervisory review process provide more effective mechanism for dealing with individual instances of high level of Sharia non-compliant risk. So hence the study proposed some policy option and guidance for regulatory and supervisory authority to address Sharia non-compliant risk. In this context, it suggests to collect adequate information on material development of SNCR in the Islamic banks, including pertinent information on the current and emerging Sharia non-compliant risk exposure and vulnerabilities to undertake an effective supervisory review process. So the main idea here is, at first, the FSB find that we agree that Sharia non-compliant risk is very important, but is it necessary to have capital charge on this Sharia non-compliant risk. This study also highlights the issues and challenges in the disclosure practice of Islamic bank in relation to Sharia non-compliant risk, in which consistent and elaborate regulatory disclosure requirement could provide sufficient information to the stakeholder for assessing the level of Sharia non-compliant risk in individual institutions. Against researchers, PhD holders, candidates can look again at this, especially the needs of capitals, especially why Sharia non-compliant risk is very critical. We can support this research and enhance this research. Sorry. Okay. Next, we have a very brief discussions on the challenges and limitations of these topics, of how we can contribute our research for policy making enhancements. Among the challenges and limitation, and also actually opportunity, for us, is many of us in research community have little incentive, and this is a common, to do policy research. Second, promotion is strongly linked to publication in journals, especially the index, Scopus journals. Also, challenges of researchers to engage in policy research is that policy research often require multi-persons, team, and multidisciplinary. For instance, you need somebody that specializes in accounting. You also need somebody specialized in Sharia, in legal, and also you need feedback on the practical of the topics, practicality of the topics. Number 4, lack of engagement with the industry players and policymaker in the process of conducting research. This is in general, not necessary for us, because Alhamdulillah, here we have sponsored research, for example, by industry, means that we can engage with them, we can contribute, we can show the models that we have to the industry that provide sponsor research, for instance. Before I conclude, I also appreciate if the participants, the scholars, can just share in the chat, if I'm not mistaken, or in the comments, what are the other challenges and limitations for knowledge sharings from all of you here, so we can see more challenges, and if possible, can just write a very simple solution on the challenges and the limitations. And to conclude, I just share one hadith in relation to knowledge that can benefit all of us. Abu Hurairah narrated that Prophet Muhammad SAW, peace and blessing be upon him, said, when a man dies, his good deeds come to an end, except 3: ongoing charity, beneficial knowledge, and righteous offspring who will pray for him. So this we can see is very clear, the importance of knowledge seeking, knowledge sharings. In order to do that, inshallah, we can have more stakeholder engagement. Currently, let's say we are looking at Islamic finance, Islamic social finance. Not only we engage with the industry, but we also need to engage with the community at large. And then from that, inshallah, the knowledge we can seek for research collaboration, and by making solid research, inshallah, it will provide a policy contribution, and finally, it can be translated into contribution to the community. Thank you very much. I pass back to the platform to the moderator. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ramzi, for your presentation. It is also a very informative and interesting sharing. From what you have presented, I would say it is crucial to have more and more research related to Islamic finance, and researchers or academia to work hand in hand with the policymakers or the regulatory bodies in the future, inshallah. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we have finished with our presentation. We have two presentation earlier, and now we have come to the Q&A session. All right. I can see we have a question has been posted in the chat box in our YouTube channel, and our listeners have been very active throughout the session. Thank you so much. So first, I will pass the question to Prof. Hazila while waiting for the question to be extracted by the team. Okay. So here goes, Prof. You have mentioned. Can we have Prof in the screen? Okay, Prof. Question for you.
Yeah.
So you have mentioned that Malaysia is now a leading country in medical tourism.
Yeah.
So what are some of the factors that led to the success of the country in medical tourism?
Thank you, Puan Latifah, for your question. It's a very good question. Actually, Malaysia, a number of factors makes Malaysia a very attractive option for medical tourism. We have, as I mentioned earlier, we have a strong healthcare network in the country. And in terms of healthcare development, we started way ahead of other countries in this region. Yeah, our medical school, the first medical school, 1905. Yeah, and then the Institute of Medical Research is now over 100 years old. So we have that head start. Yeah, and as I mentioned, the 1997 financial crisis, we opened up our this thing to foreign patients. But again, apart from that, the nature of people, our behavior, the global behavior of people has changed over the years. There is more movement. Yeah, movement of people. You can see that the growth of the airline industry has been exponential. Yeah, and you have people, Air Asia coming in with everybody can fly. So that cross-border travel has been made very affordable, very easy, and also the internet has created that boon for the industry, because people in America, when they are scared of a hospital in Thailand, for example, they can just look at the YouTube first. Yeah, so though these factors has created has created the how to say this, the environment for the industry. And we saw just now the cost is also healthcare is something where the cost will never come down. It will always go up.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, and we saw in America just now it was 18% of GDP, which is very high. So that made Americans leave America for other healthcare. But in Malaysia, we have a unique situation because most of our patients come from Indonesia actually.
Yes.
You have about 60% of our patients come from Indonesia. Yeah, because we are more advanced than Indonesia in terms of provision of healthcare services. So they come over, and also because, as I said just now, travel is made easier between the two countries. Yeah, so that has, and also bear in mind that healthcare in Malaysia is highly regulated. Yeah, so that created that assurance in the industry. Yeah, so I have answered your question there.
Yes, Alhamdulillah, yes. Okay. Thank you so much. And then can we go to the second question, Prof? All right. So the second question is that what is your advice? The second question, okay, what is your advice to the people who wish to pursue a career in medicine given a large number of medical graduates in the country?
Okay. Yeah, if you are a young student and you want to look into your
Yeah, yes.
future, you have an interest in medicine. Yeah. if it is your interest, your own interest, out of you really want to do it, if you're a young student, go for it, but be prepared. It is it is a long process to become a medical specialist. Be prepared for that. Don't be influenced by parents, by relatives. No, by sometimes you watch movies. Be sure of your calling comes from your heart. You must be passionate about it. Otherwise, it's a tough call.
A long
Alright.
way to go, right?
Yes,
You have
yes,
mentioned about how many years they have
yeah,
to
yeah,
become a
yeah.
medical specialist. So long.
All right.
All
Okay.
right. So the third question, Prof, came from our listener in the YouTube channel. We have a question. Can we post on the screen? All right. So the question goes. What is your comment on the housemanship issues arise in Malaysia lately? So I guess this question is about the case of medical officers issues. Before this, we have in they march to what they call as um,
Okay.
yes, yeah, about the recent issues about the medical
Hassan.
officers,
Yeah.
contracted medical officers. So we have a same question from Sister Mazna Zakaria also asking about the
Yeah.
same things. Okay, what is your comment on the recent health issues? And then
Yeah. Mm.
they say that will that pave way to many MO medical officer resulting to jobs at private hospital and causing further brain drain or medic professional drain in public health services vicinity or hospital in Malaysia? That is the question from
Yeah.
Sister Mazna.
Okay, actually, this one is a complex issue, because as I said just now, the policy was made years ago, and today is something that is brewing, it's something that you have to acknowledge, that the young medical officers are finding it difficult, their concern is, where do we go from here? How to build a career out of medicine. With regard to private hospitals, they will not take doctors without train. They take specialist doctors in. So it will not be a brain drain from junior officers to from public to private. That will not happen, because the private hospitals, they take fully trained. The government has trained, and then they take they employ. Yeah. So that, but looking at the houseman issue, the fact that we have far too many medical doctors than than what the country needs. Yeah. We cannot, we have to, the country has to address this in a more strategic manner, because we already have this many. What do we do now? Yeah, the moratorium is 5 years, 5 years. Yeah, so we need to have indefinite moratorium. You cannot have any more medical schools coming in. You have to stop that. Yeah, and then you have to look into the overseas qualifications. You have far too many. We need to bring that down, yeah, to level that to a more manageable level. Okay, and there are countries where you have more medical doctors, like Cuba has many medical doctors. But they have been very strategic in it. So they are now producing their own vaccine. They are sending doctors whenever they are, they send doctors to Italy. They send this. It becomes like a diplomatic call for Cuba.
Yes.
So medicine is something that evolves, that grows. There are many areas, not just hospital medicine. There is R&D, the areas that the country can open up, to really capitalize on the talent that we have. Yeah, but that requires a more strategic direction. Yeah, what do we do? We have this many. What do we do next? Okay, so you
Strategic plan.
answer the question.
Inshallah. So, do we have any more question for Prof? Oh, okay. I missed this one. Okay. Also, question
Yeah.
from Sister Farika. Your comment on the utilization pattern, Prof.
Yeah, this is again a very interesting question. Utilization pattern of healthcare. Actually, our country is moving towards an aging population. Yeah, you have more people who are, because our life expectancy keep increasing, so we can expect in 10 years time we are reaching countries like in Japan where you have more elderly. So how do you address the elderly population? Yeah, so that will require more geriatric services. Yeah, so you have to prepare, because this thing will come, and if you're not prepared, that's why your healthcare services can be overwhelmed. Yeah, so that's why you see Japan takes a different apa tu, route from us. Their manufacturing are producing more elderly friendly robots, all this, so to cater for this, that it will be an influx, of elderly population. Yeah. And also in terms of healthcare, this thing, Malaysia is moving from towards more well, it's not moving, it has been for quite some time. Yeah, lifestyle diseases, yeah, cancer, or that, I think that one we already know. Yeah, but also another thing that is worrying in Malaysia is also the high number of accidents in the country. Yeah, the road accidents, so many. Yeah, so we are among the highest in, so our hospitals have to we really have to prepare for that, like in America, because they have so many gunshot wounds, and the hospitals are prepared for that. Yeah, so you have to train your specialties in these areas where is going to be a strong push in these areas. Yeah, so in terms of healthcare services, that will this thing, it will be in that direction. Thank you.
All right, very interesting explanation from Prof. That's why the expert opinion very very important nowadays. So I guess do we have a more question from coming from the listener in our YouTube channel? So if not, thank you so much, Prof, for your answers, and we
Okay.
go for the next round. The second round is for a question for Dr. Romzi. Okay, can we have Dr. Romzi to the main screen?
Assalamualaikum.
Salam. Okay, Dr. Ramzi, question for you. In your opinion, how can academia engage and reach the industry players, policymakers to enhance their research works and publication to support the community?
Oh, okay. Thank you, madam. I think when I also see one of the question, how to establish networking with regulators and get them agree to involve in the policy research and publication. Okay, maybe
Yes.
there is
You want to
both
combine the question?
quite.
Okay.
I can
Let's do
combine
that.
with that. Okay. So basically, to make engagement is very important. I can say from my experience lah, I just say I'm sure there's many other experts from this university have more engagement with industry. Okay? So I will put it into two. One is informal and one is formal. Okay? Sometimes informal is more effective. Sometimes. Okay?
Okay.
So I put myself as a lecturer and as a student. So participation in conference, for instance. Participation in conference, you present in your papers, especially when the conference is organized and sponsored, maybe collaboration with the industry or even the policymakers. Yeah. So and then webinar. This is all informal. You participate in webinar, even if like me, I'm a lecturer, and if you are a student, go to your lecturer sometimes. Go to your lecturer. Okay. So in UIA, for instance, we have many in my area, especially in Islamic finance, we have many Sharia scholars. Dr. Aznan, Prof. Rusni, Dr. Said Musa, many, Dr. Azman, so many. I just I cannot say that there are many scholars. So that is very informal. You engage with them, and then from that, inshallah, you will learn a lot. Okay, that's informal. Another, if you want to take some initiative, look at this website, Malaysia Accounting Standard Board, AUFI, IFRS. This is the regulator standard setting body websites. Okay. If you follow the websites or follow their maybe Twitter or what, they have exposure draft. They have exposure draft. This is where you can provide opinions. This is where you can provide opinions formally or informally. So let's say you always provide opinions, then this will enhance your engagement or your relationship and also your confidence actually. Okay, for formal maybe for research grant. Okay, Alhamdulillah, for example in UIA there are quite many sponsor research from banks, for instance, from even Majlis Agama. They ask the researcher to certain topics, maybe they highlight a few issues. Okay, from that maybe you will produce a model. So the models maybe they use it for their internal practical, or maybe for external policy makings. So okay, to cut short, if you really want now, for example, go to AUFI in accounting. Now they have the exposure draft in Takaful. You can engage, for instance, in UIA. We have accounting department, Islamic finance. Try to work together, give some comments as unit from a university point of view, because this is very important. The policy will. I'm sure Prof also agree. Prof did many policy things, especially for medical, right? So this policy is actually will make the industry, the behavior of the industry. Okay, so that's, I think that's some of the opinion lah, how we can engage not only
Okay.
academia but also for the students.
So I
And then
hope that answer the question for Brother Suhaimi as well. That's it.
yeah. And then I think one question here, can we have the link for the publication about Islamic finance? Okay, I think there's a many. Okay. Goes to the library is one of the
I
things.
think this
Okay,
is
but
a question for the library.
but if you want the one that is free and then it's from policy maker, go to IFSB, go to MSB, they have their research. They have their research, and their research is very current. And even if I always look at exposure draft, because exposure draft is the opportunity for us. Sometimes we complain after it's been published. Okay. after it's been published, we say this here and there. But this is the chance for us to give opinions. Okay, I think that's so far. I think any other questions?
All right, so there's a question for a PhD candidate, doctor. To what extent that it say that I need to have a policy contribution in my thesis? Question about on a thesis,
Okay.
doctor.
Okay, so in this, I think after this, I appreciate that Prof can continue to answer this, because Prof is more experienced on this. Okay, but my opinion, okay, because I'm quite new, to be frank, in here. Okay, at least, of course, we always emphasize on theoretical and methodological contributions. Of course, we integrate the theories, and then from that maybe we empirical test the theories, and then for methodology maybe we create a new instrument and so on and so forth. But at least for policy or practical contribution, in my opinion, at least you need to refer to the latest policy documents. Especially when we talk about Islamic finance, Sharia. Okay, so this reference from Sharia standards, okay, I think is necessary. And then at least in your contribution, you should mention by providing these models, what is actually the impact to the industry. So this is at least the thesis, okay, can have some kind of policy contribution. Because I just share with you during one of the Viva, the chairperson after finish the thesis, alhamdulillah, very good. And then the chairperson asked, okay, can you do some proposal? We want to use this findings for and then send to central bank. Oh, okay. So this is what we need to put some kind of higher expectation lah.
Yeah.
Not necessarily they will follow, but at least because this is 3 years of research, okay, 3 to 4 years. So it's very, very bad. Eh? I think maybe please allow Prof to
Yes, yes.
yeah, Prof, please.
Maybe Prof want to comment on this?
Policy contribution.
Yeah,
Of course,
medical,
if you spend about 3-4 years of your life doing something, it's better to work on something that is beneficial to the society at large, which can be achieved through a good policy, which if it can affect good policy. I would agree with Dr. Ramzi that that's a good way to have your PhD. Yeah? Because in a PhD normally we look at the methodology. We are so engrossed with the theoretical aspect and the methodology. As examiners, we always screen the methodology. Okay, but yes, we really have to consider the policy aspect as well. Yeah. Thank you.
You want to add more, Dr. Ramzi, to that?
No, it's okay. I'm done with that.
All right, I continue with the third. Thank you so much, Prof. And then we continue to the third question. All right. If I am interested in finding issues relating to policy in the area of accounting or Islamic finance, can you provide some suggestion, Dr. Ramzi?
Okay, madam. Yeah, this is the one I mentioned before. Okay, basically, if issues in policy, the best way is look at the policy maker from the policy maker point of view. As I mentioned before, look at their websites. From that, they put some exposure draft. They even put a papers. For instance, I mentioned to you, I also share. If you are really interested in accounting, it's a free ebook, a review of Bank Negara Malaysia Syariah Policy document from a financial reporting perspective. This is made by working group of MASB Standing Committee on Islamic Financial Reporting. Okay, basically this is when we have a Sharia policy documents. So the main thing is, if we follow, is there any issues when we report it? So they have many issues here, and then you can go back to the websites, the articles they shows the contemporary issues, especially in this area. That's my view.
Okay, so do we have any more question for Dr. Ramzi? Okay. Finish already, is it? Well, we have discussed a lot with our two guests, and this is new to me. To be honest, I'm not. My area of education is in library science and also FIC. So this is very new to me, and I don't know to comment much on this, Doctor and Prof. So thank you so much, Doctor. If you have anything anything to say before we end the session, Prof and Dr. Ramzi, do you have any advice to our listener, because we still have time? We still have time, about 20 minutes more. So before we wrap up our session today, do you have any more to say? Can we go round table? Prof first?
Yeah. I think this is a very good effort on the part of the library. This is commendable, I would say, because you are promoting
Thank you
research,
so much.
the university's research, to the broader. Through YouTube and all that. So that is through social media. So that will put us on a global, on a widely accessible forum.
Yes,
So I think this
we
is
hope
very
that.
commendable effort. I would say. And thank you so much for inviting me.
Welcome, Prof. And then Dr. Ramzi?
Thank you so much for this opportunity. And thank you so much for this opportunity. Inshallah, we are looking forward for other sessions.
InsyaAllah.
Basically, inshallah, we try to promote the research culture, especially
Yes.
not only for students, for academic, for even staff, scholars.
Yes.
Inshallah, we can contribute. Inshallah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you so much, Dr. Ramzi. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's wrap up our session for today. Alhamdulillah. On behalf of Darul Hikmah Library IIUM, we would like to thank you. Thank you for thank you all of you. Sorry, why I'm being nervous when to end the discussion. All right. We'd like to thank you all for making time in your busy schedule to join us. And before we end, I would like to inform that we will have our next series in September. Same time, same channel with another expert in action. Stay tuned with us. Do not forget to subscribe our channel and click the notification bell so that you will not miss any interesting events. Once again, we would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to our respected panelists and participants for your presence. We would like to also apologize for any shortcomings or my hiccups and everything. And hope to meet you again. I wish you all pleasant day. Happy New Year Muharram 1443 Hijrah tomorrow, and stay safe wherever you are. Let's end our session with the recitation of Surah Al-As and Tasbih Kifarah. With that, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.